Moving on to our final topic of the night. And Pat, just a heads up to you. When we close the show, I got a little closing that I want to do, and that goes back to one of our other things. It's just something I want to say.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got to cap off the show somehow. Let's do it.
But yeah, topic number 10 is the high school sports season. And in particular, especially here in Massachusetts and a lot of other states too, you're getting into the fall two season. And that's due to the pandemic and COVID. So it's just a jumble here, but these kids are getting back to playing. And I guess that's the good thing.
Yeah, it's going to be strange. It's a lot to put on athletic departments right now. I like the fact that they're doing a fall two season to make sure that some of these football players who were supposed to play in the fall, and indoor volleyball, and I think a lot of soccer teams played in the fall itself because it was outside and it was safer. But I think there might be some leagues where they didn't play soccer, so they might be playing it in the fall two season as well. You felt for the seniors weren't able to get that senior year. I mean, you're a football coach, Brandon. I played high school football. Certainly wasn't good enough to play in college, but you know that senior year for some guys, they don't mature physically till their senior year, so that's when they get their look for college scouting. So now these guys and gals who play volleyball, and so the boys and girls that are playing these sports at least get more college looks now, can get something on film, so they can get recruited. So that's the good thing about having this fall two season, and for these kids just to play this sport. Some of these sports are the only sports these kids play. I've always advocated for kids to play multiple sports and not specialize in just one. But some kids just play volleyball or just play soccer or just play football. And, so this is the one thing that they do, the one extracurricular activity they do throughout the year. And, for some players, it's the one sport that keeps them in school. It keeps them focused. I mean, I think my best grades in high school were actually during football season because I would go to school, then I would go to practice, then I knew I had to go home and do work right away, and then go to bed, get up, and do it all over again because that's the only way it could get done. So it kind of gives you like a regimented schedule to get everything in. The tough part about fall too, at least here in Massachusetts, is a couple of things. One is facilities. There's some, stadiums and fields that are just a mess because of the winter, and we just had a massive windstorm yesterday, so I'm sure there's stuff damaged from that too. Or was that Monday? I think it was Monday. No, it was yesterday. It was Tuesday. And so you got that, and then over the winter, any school that has natural grass football stadium, that field is going to be a total mess. It's going to be really hard to play in a natural grass stadium. There's one in Boston, White Stadium. That's a really cool old school, 20,000 seat stadium, but the turf is actually natural grass. There's no way they're going to be able to play on it. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is, now that basketball season's over, because it really affects, mostly basketball, the football, the baseball, or the big sports, but it's other sports too. The fall two season is now ending sort of like mid-April. And now the spring season is starting mid-April to late April, and all the spring sports are saying, we didn't even have a season last year. Now you're telling us when we can have a season safely outside, you're saying we have to start later to fit in the fall two season. So now spring sports coaches and players are sort of upset, what's going on here? We're getting kind of shortchanged again. At least we're having a season, but we're coming up short here. We're having 2 or 3 less weeks when it's already kind of shortened because, especially in New England, you just don't have good weather to start the season. So that stuff's kind of got to be, figured out. I think with situations like this, you just got to overlap. And I know some baseball teams or softball teams might not have all of their players in the first week or two. And I think, unfortunately, this year, you're just going to have to kind of figure it out because you got to, in order to get that fall two season in, and also for the spring sports to have a quality season themselves, you just got to overlap the two seasons, and you might be shorthanded in the first couple of weeks, or at least not have a huge bench. But that's just kind of something you're gonna have to deal with. I think that's the best way to go.
You bring up a great topic with spring coaches really not complaining last spring, where all the fall coaches basically cried their eyes out about their losing their season. And the spring coaches basically said, hey, we're kind of waiting, to kind of see what happens here. And I can be one of those. Obviously, I coach football, basketball, and track and field. So I go through all the different seasons. And I can tell you, like I said, as a track coach, we weren't complaining about missing the season because we knew it was right. And I think it was right for them to push off football and all these other fall sports because of COVID as well. And we're now starting to see the numbers go down. We're getting more vaccinations out. Hopefully that trend will continue, and we'll just be able to continue having sports and just making adjustments going along the way. But I mean, yeah, I'd like to see that spring season extended. I know they had talked about extending it all the way up until maybe July at this point for us in Massachusetts. And I'm not against that for giving these kids more chance to play because, like you said, they had no season last year in the spring. So give them that extra time. And, another state that's playing fall too is California. And you've got a lot of studs out there on the football field and some other sports too. And I don't want to just give football love because, like you said, you do have volleyball coming back, and I think you have cross country as well, or maybe some winter track maybe that is actually trying to happen, mixing it in. And that's the thing that you don't know right now. It depends on what state you're in, and really even in your league and how they're handling it. I know the league that I coach in. It's an independent league, and they've had no sports all year long. And then that's following safety guidelines, and they're still not having any sports until probably the fall of 2021. And I completely understand that. So if the trend continues with these numbers of COVID numbers going down, more vaccines going up, so people get vaccinated. Yes. So these kids can have a chance to play, especially if you want to get out and get back to a normal life. I think so. If we can get those positive trends to continue, then yeah, sports will be coming back. And I've always said that, sports will return. Let's just, do the right thing and let's be safe because sports will return. And when they return, we'll be ready.
Yeah, and I think, we do need to sort of end the show before you need to go off on what you need to go off on, is to say that we also should just be happy that we're having a fall 2 season and a spring season. And, we just finished up a basketball season here in Massachusetts. I know in the city of Boston, it actually went pretty well. They had 4 weeks of a regular season basketball. Then they had a city league championship week, and it all went very well. And it, everybody followed the safety protocols and everything was good. And we're lucky that this is getting fit in. So, at least we didn't lose an entire sports season, the entire calendar year. So we should probably end at that with that topic. And I hope that everything works out for all the high school sports teams in this country. But, we're New England guys, so we got to think about Massachusetts first, as always. But, Brandon, you had one more thing that you wanted to rant about, my friend. So I'm going to give you the last word.
Well, I still want you to close out the show because you're a professional. You do it better than me. But I do want to say, first off, you've been getting much respect for all the work that you do with City Basketball on Twitter. And I've seen that, and the kids are lucky to have you, and so is the network lucky to have you because you're great with that. So I think you deserve all the props. I've seen coaches giving you props and news people giving you props. So I think that's awesome, Pat.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, you deserve it. And then secondly, my rant is for Tim again. It's for Tim again with his Deshaun Watson thing. So my biggest thing is none of these guys that complain about Deshaun Watson complained about Carson Wentz, Matthew Stafford, or J.J. Watt doing the exact same thing that Deshaun Watson has done and saying, I want out, I don't care about my contract, I want out, I want to go to a new team. All 3 of those guys have done the exact same thing. Nobody cries about them, so stop crying about Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think, we can talk about this, we'll talk about this till next season probably. I don't understand what people's mindset are when they look at the instability at the top of the Houston Texans, especially, and just see the owner, Jack Easterbay, who shouldn't be in anybody's front office, and then Nick Caserio has inherited this mess. And I think if there's one guy, there's 2 guys that might be able to try to keep Watson on. I don't think it's going to happen. It's Caserio, and I still can't remember the name of the head coach, so I apologize for that. But those are the only 2 guys that can probably keep him there, and I still don't think it's going to happen. So I don't understand people's viewpoints on there. I am with Watson 100%. It's just not just because I want them to come to the Pats, although I think that is a pipe dream at this point. But folks, thank you so much for joining us once again on Comeback Sports. Make sure when you go on YouTube, you give us a subscription. You can see all the different shows we've done over the last few weeks. We've been doing this for a couple of months now, so make sure you check that out. Our producer, Ben Kudo, does a fantastic job cutting up different pieces of the show, so make sure you check out those little pieces as well. Or if you want to watch the entire show, that's great. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. Follow us on Twitter, like Brendan's saying, and we always tweet out our links to the live shows and to some of the shows from the past. Make sure you go there as well. So thank you so much once again for joining us here on Comeback Sports. We'll see you next week. Have a good week, everybody. Stay safe.